Hello! Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how I painted this Vampirella model by Abe 3D and also talk you through how I paint skin. I feel like I paint skin in a bit of a weird way because I haven't seen anyone else do it this way, but basically I start off with purples, blues and pinks and kind of sketch out where I want the highlights and the shadows, and then I paint my skin tones on top of that because then the pinks and purples and the blues and stuff come through the skin tone. So for example, if you just look at your hand, you can see your veins underneath and all your imperfections because nobody's skin's perfect. You're covered in red dots and brown dots and everything. So I like to include that with my painting. I've also made some photos that show you where I place the highlights and the shadows, and they will be linked down below and I'll pop them here as well. So do check that out if you're interested. And yeah, I'll explain it a little bit more as we get going, so let's get into it. So to start off with, you can see that I'm going in with these purple colours. I'm putting these in the shadow areas and kind of like the cracks of the body. So you can see I put one along a rib part and under the boobs, under the bum, down the spine, that kind of thing. And then I'm going in with my blue, and I'm putting this just in the highest highlight areas, so on top of the boobs, along that leg, a little bit on the stomach and on the bum. This is me using my first skin tone, and I've just sprayed it on that paper towel to show you how thin down it is. This is just going to go over the purple area. So you're basically just following the blues and the purples, it's kind of like a sketch. We then go in with what you'd probably call the mid-tone. This goes everywhere, but try and avoid putting it in the shadows as much because we don't want to lose that shadow colour. We just kind of want to blend everything into a skin tone at this point. So you can see those purples and those blues still coming through the skin at the moment. At this point you can see I start going in with highlight colours. This is a red glaze filter. No, I'm not really sure what you'd call it, but it's very, very watered down paint in the airbrush, kind of like a glaze consistency or a wash. And I put this all over the model. Now this is quite a scary thing to do. First time I did it, I thought, oh, my model's just going to turn red. But if you give it a go and you do it a couple of times, you get the hang of it. And it's really good for adding life to your models. And then I use a brush to go in and just add a couple of freckles here and there. I then start going in with a black glaze, and I do this just on the underneath parts of the body where less light would hit. This will help create a bit of a scene, especially with it being in like a graveyard. I want some sort of dark atmosphere added to it. So you can see there it's adding a bit of a black glint. This is me placing a white highlight I actually use an ink for this. You can see how the light's naturally hitting the spots that I'm putting it. So I'm just trying to enhance that. Here you can see what the skin's looking like. You can see those slight purple tones still coming through, and the blues and the pinks. Okay, this is where I start to paint the face, and I use the same things for the skin, the exact same steps. I actually show you here how I make that glaze filter, whatever you want to call it, really thin. So I put it onto the brush, wipe off quite a lot, and then mix it with a lot of airbrush thinner. Then I start painting the lips. For this, I kind of wanted a purple tint with it, so I mixed a reddish purple with a bright red, and then went on to the eyebrows. The eyebrows, it's just a normal black paint. Here I'm going in with the white and putting it just underneath the arch of the eyebrow to make the eyes look wider and brighter. And then I'm adding a reddish purple colour onto the eyelids. Then I start painting the eyes. I use an off-white for the whites of the eyes, and then I basically paint the eyes with different greens from dark to light. You'll also see here I started adding little reddish purple lines coming down from my eye. Instantly regretted that, but now I look back, I'm kind of glad I did it because it suits her and it adds something else. I've still not really got the hang of painting hair, but on this model I use different shades of grey on the highest parts to show a highlight, and then glazed over the whole hair with a magenta glaze. For the boots, I kind of do the same thing. I start off with them just being a base black, and then I use greys to add in the highlights, and then go over the whole thing with a purplish blue. Just because I don't want them to be black, you know, they're going to have a highlight. And this also gives the impression of them being quite shiny as well. With the base, I started off with it black and then added a purple. This is just because there's a lot of purples going in on this model, and I wanted to try and tie that purple theme into everything throughout. So I add it to pretty much everything. And then I go in and add some grayer parts, and then basically just dry brush it with different shades of grey all the way up to pure white. For these skulls, I use a speed paint. I've not actually been using speed paints for very long, but this is a army painter speed paint, and I put that on all over it, varnish it, and then call it a day for that day, and come back the next day and dry brush it with an AK Vampiric Flesh, which is kind of like a bone colour, so any bone kind of paint would work with this. You'll then see me go over this with a wash, just to tie all the colours in together. To make this look like the base is actually lit up, I start off by adding a yellow colour to where all those white parts are and where the light would naturally be glowing. And then I go in with an orange over the top of this because the yellow just doesn't do enough. You can see here how that orange definitely makes it look a lot more like fire. For the flames, to make them look like they were actually glowing, I added orange to the top parts, and then a little bit of white in the mid parts, and then went over that white with a fluorescent yellow paint, and then went back in and added a tiny white dot just into the centre of the flames where the hottest part of the fire would be. The last two steps that I do is I go in with the black and just add this into the cracks of the base and where you'd see probably the darkest colours to give it a bit more contrast, a bit more variety, and then I sprinkle some twigs on, some rocks on, and some tufts. If you like this video, please do like and subscribe if you're not already, and let's get into those glamour pictures.